Good morning. We'll be getting started here in a minute. I appreciate everybody joining me here in classroom 3 of the E-Missionary Conference. We're going to talk about ministry and encouragement for the technical staff. And appreciate your patience. It's the first time for me to do this, to do it remote. And hope that all goes well. Appreciate your prayers. And appreciate AJ inviting us to the conference. We've known him for a couple of years. Been praying for his family and the trauma that they've been going through this past week. God give them peace and direction in this time of sorrow. And we'll get started. So my name is Hugh Plappert. I am with a company called PhoneLive.io. Um, our business is about 5 years old. We do audio streaming across the telephone for those who are not able to watch your live stream. So today we're going to talk about the side of technology that I think maybe gets overlooked sometimes, and that is the ministry side of it, and also the need for encouragement in the work that you're doing, and the importance of that work that you are doing. And so, I'd like to start my session by looking through the scriptures in the book of Zechariah in chapter 4. There are three important key phrases, we want to look at. So in Zechariah chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "So he answered and said to me, This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts." And what I want to take from that verse is the phrase, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. And what we're doing is a spiritual thing, and we need the Lord's anointing on the work that we do. Then go on to verse 9 and 10. In verse 9, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this temple. His hands shall also finish it. Then you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. God promises him that he's going to be able to finish the work that he has started when God's working along with him. Then in verse 10, for who has despised the day of small things? For these seven rejoice to see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. They are the eyes of the Lord, which scans to and fro throughout the whole earth. And here we want to look at the phrase, for who has despised the day of small things? And so, what we need to do is pray over and ask for God's anointing on the work that we do. We should be confident that the Lord's going to help us to do it right and to finish it and complete it. And we need to not look down at the days of small things. And so your church's live stream broadcast setup may not be that big. It may be a small thing. But let's see what God can do with those small things. And so it's my prayer today to be an encouragement to you and to help you through the work of ministry that you do in technology um, in the church. And I would like to share my testimony, and I wish I had time to go around the room to hear everybody's testimony because God's in so much and God does some amazing things for everybody. But I'm hoping today that I can encourage you with my story. Our story started with a transistor radio back in 1964. So my parents had moved into a new neighborhood. They were struggling financially. The neighbor came over and helped them move in, became good friends with my mother. And they would play cards a couple nights a week, and be an encouragement to each other. And her neighbor would invite her to church, and my mother would come up with excuses for not going to church. And then one day, her neighbor came over and says, "Our church is having a Sunday school contest, and if you come to church, help me win. I can win this transistor radio." So this is 1964, transistor radio, which meant a lot. Her neighbor was, in the poor level of society, didn't have much money, and it was a really big deal. It'd be kind of like winning an iPad today. And so, mom went to church with her over the 10 weeks, and her friend won the transistor radio. My mother became a Christian, and it was a life changing experience. 2 months later, my folks faced bankruptcy and had to move 2 hours away to move in with my dad's folks. That was in 1964. In 2014, it was 50 years, and we were so thankful for the impact that that lady had on our family. I didn't know her name, I didn't know the name of the pastor, the name of the church, but I wanted to honor my mother and to celebrate 50 years of Pentecost in our family. And so I networked with the leaders of the church, and come to find out, it was a guy named Donald Knight that pastored this church, and he was still alive and had his phone number. So I called him and I said, "Reverend Knight, I'm Hugh Plappert. You don't know me, but did you pastor a church in Belleville, Illinois in 1964? He said, "Yes, sir, I did." I said, "Do you remember baptizing a red-headed lady?" He says, "Son, you just changed my life." What do you mean? This minister, Reverend Donald Knight, had only pastored there for 9 months. It was a family owned and operated church, and he was butting heads with the leading family and couldn't get anything done. In prayer one day, God told him if he would have the Sunday school contest, that it would spark a revival. In that Sunday school contest, only one lady came in. The whole time he was there, he only baptized one lady, and she disappeared. After that, Reverend Knight went into deep depression. He felt like a failure. He quit pastoring, and for a year and a half, he didn't know what he was going to do. He ended up moving to Mississippi, pastoring a church there for 5 years. Then he went to Stone Mountain, Georgia, and started a brand new church plant. That church plant grew into a large church. They became a huge sponsor of missionaries around the world. Reverend Knight, as a result of that, has preached in 158 countries. And so every time Reverend Knight had success, the devil kept reminding him about how he was a fool and how he had failed in Belleville until he got that phone call from me. And on his own dime, he flew in to our mother's hometown. We surprised her with the 50th celebration. We introduced her to Reverend Donald Knight, and he got up and preached a sermon called But Belleville, and how for 50 years the devil haunted him about what happened in Belleville until he got the phone call. And then he turned around and says, "The devil, it's my turn. Let me tell you about But Belleville." You see, I became a board member of a Bible college. My older brother became a missionary to Cuba. My mother was a camp counselor and impacted hundreds of lives. For a period of time, I worked for Northwest Airlines and had free flying privileges, and I would travel throughout the United States and visit churches from California to Florida to Maine and everywhere in between. The majority of the time, the pastor would introduce me as being from the Bible college, and somebody in the audience after church would come up to me and says, "Is your mother Mary Helen?" Because she was my dorm counselor, and she impacted my life this way or that way or made this change all over the United States. So what seemed to be just a simple little contest with a little transistor radio did spark a revival. And so the little things that you do are of extreme, extreme importance. Don't ever feel like it's not worth it. People don't appreciate you. Um, they overlooked you. They step on you. Whatever. That little thing you're doing is of very extreme importance. And only eternity will tell the whole story of what God is doing and has done and will do with the work that you're doing. So I grew up struggling in school, and in my eighth grade, a number of teachers um, took a liking to me, helped me, went out of their way, got me involved in amateur radio, and then from that into microcomputers. And I dreamed as a teenager the potential of what the church could do with microcomputers. Now, this is in the days before the IBM PC, okay? I know I don't look that old, but dream of all the possibilities of what you could do with a computer. And so when I enrolled in Bible college and was going to join the Apostolic Bible Institute as a student in St. Paul, Minnesota, I'm from Central Illinois, a farm town out there called Mowequa. Um, my pastor warned me. He says, "You're going to go to Bible school. Don't bother them about buying a computer, using a computer, because the budget's tight at Bible schools. They don't make a lot of money. Just go put your nose in the books and study." So I was obedient to my pastor. He was very excited about going to Bible school. So I needed to make a change to my schedule, and they sent me to this back office down the hallway. I arrived in the back office, and a frustrated administrator was working on a TR-SATI Model 12, and they were having problems. And I said, "Would you like for me to take a look at it and fix it for you?" He said, "Please do." So I sat down, and in a few minutes, I had the problem resolved. The next morning, I got called into the office, and I received a working scholarship for becoming a full-time programmer for the school while attending as a student. So I didn't have to pay a dime to go to college. My whole college was paid for. And that was how my career took off. And so from there, a lot of doors opened, got a lot of experience. And when I graduated, I moved back to Illinois. The district superintendent of Illinois offered me my general minister's license. They're just going to give him to me because he knew me. I grew up around him and just graduated from Bible college. But I got a phone call to come back to the Bible college. The then vice president, eventually the president, Gerald Grant, set me down and says, "I don't want you to get your minister's license. I want you to come back and work for me, help us with the computer." And this is the days before the internet. And he says, "And this computer keyboard will become your pulpit," is what he prophesied. And so I went back. I was with Reverend Gerald Grant for 41 years before he retired. And this, God has opened all kinds of doors as a result of that. During that time, the Illinois district, where I grew up, did have me come down and help them install their first new computer and set up their accounting system for them. And I considered that a great privilege. During the same time, I developed a fundraiser called a Bible Readathon, which the Illinois district took a liking to, and they used it. And they raised over $90,000 back in the early 80s, pay off the mortgage on their campground, and to add air conditioning to their cafeteria. And so it was really cool being involved with that. Uh, so at the Bible college, I actually worked part time. They didn't have enough work really to keep me full time, and I didn't get paid. I was just a volunteer. I got room and board for working with them. So I did small jobs around town. And then one day, the president called me and says, "You know, with the workload here, you could probably go out and get a full time corporate job. I want you to look for a full time job." So I sent out 100 resumes, and I received back in the mail 99 rejections. This is the days before the internet, so this is paper stuff, right? Sent out 100 resumes in the mail. I got 99 rejection letters, so I kept them in a shoebox and kept track of a list to see, who was still outstanding. I was in an accident where a uh, person was driving down the road and ended up hitting me, and I flew about 12 feet, landed on the blacktop on my back, um, and I was pretty hurt, but not enough to be in the hospital. And the next day, when I went to check the mail, there was that 100th letter from Northwest Airlines inviting me to interview. And I interviewed and I got the job. And initially, the first year or so working at Northwest Airlines was a nightmare, working full time, not fitting in the culture. My boss accused me of things that were not totally true. He tried to get me fired. And in the session where he tried to get me fired, the head manager came back and told my boss that he was at risk of getting fired. How bad it was. Ended up, my boss moved on. I got reorged to another part of the company. Eventually, I got reorged off the company. So if you looked at the org chart, my name was missing. Myself and another gentleman, we were open resources. And so Northwest Airlines had about 12 buildings in town, and we had an office in each building. And our job was to come into any of the offices and help in anywhere that we could. And so I had so much fun. I got involved in so many different types of technologies and components and processes and understanding the big picture. Got to work with the CEO of the company, and they were giving me 20% pay raises. Where previously, under my boss, was hard on me. He always told me he would only give me the minimum pay raise, and wish he could give me zero, but he had to give me 3%. I mean, it was really encouraging, right? But after he moved on, the company's offered me 20% pay raises. I got all this experience, and I got to fly for free. And during the 5 years I was there, I did over 200 flights, flying in first class. Um, and the Lord gave me favor in the reservation system. And ministers who got really expensive tickets, we was able to um, help them get a better price tickets to save them money. I got a lot involved with a lot of different church people nationally and internationally. It was a blast. Okay, and I'm saying all that because it was just a small thing. When I was playing with computers in high school, it was a small thing, just helping the Bible college with their computer, and then helping the district with their computer, and then getting this really nice job at Northwest Airlines, where I had all these privileges in the company and all the privileges with the free flying. Needless to say, I was spoiled. I did not deserve it. It was God using me where it was at that time. Hang in there. You don't know the plan, the path that God's going to take you down. Stick with it. And so, having these privileges and seeing the integrity and the blessings of working for God, my oldest son, David, caught on. And age 12, um, he started working with computers. I work in data analysis and database programming, is my specialty. But he was working on hardware and just learning the basics of computers. And he came across a startup company that was open for beta users. And if you signed on as a beta user, you would get a free account for life. And you get to play, with their tool and learn it. That little company we know as AWS. So my son has a lifetime account with them. And at age 12, he developed a live streaming system in the days before Boxcast, before Facebook Live, before all the streaming stuff we have today. And he started a little company called UC Streaming. And he hooked up for our church help some elderly people to be able to watch church services. And he had it connected to Google Maps so we could see who was watching on Google Maps. And one day, Google Maps couldn't resolve the IP, and he debugged it. And come to find out, it was an IP from the International Space Station, somebody trying to watch our church service from outer space. So he was age 12, right? So he sells this code to a sports network in Brazil for $200 without his parents knowing it. And there went my retirement out the window. But from that, he's developed a number of other solutions. UC Streaming, the streaming company he started, served about 100 churches at one time, and he didn't keep it up or whatever, and we ended up closing that company. But he dropped out of high school, uh, went to work for all kinds of neat companies. One of the first companies he worked for at age 17. Within a few months, he was negotiating to buy out the company, and the lawyers met and drafted up the contracts. And when they went to do the final closing on him buying out the company, they asked for collateral if he had a house or investment funds or whatever. And at 17, he says, "Well, there's my car and my bed. That's about all I own." And because of that, that fell apart. He worked for Best Buy, turned around their network for them. They were having network problems when the cloud was brand new. Um, built an infrastructure that could handle $500 million a day, excuse me, in transactions. He left there to get married, and they approached him 7 times to come back at Best Buy. He was recognized by AWS in 2016, 17, and 19 and for the project that he worked on as being one of the best programmers in the cloud in the United States. And about 7 years ago, he received an unsolicited phone call from an organization that found his code in GitHub and wanted to know if they could use it and if he would support them. You know that organization as the White House. And from there, he helped start a company called Finish Line Planner that struggled to get started, and then Church Growth in a Box, and that struggled. And then he started PhoneLive.io, the company that we run today. And again, it's kind of strange sharing your testimony because you don't want to brag because I'm nobody special. My son's nobody special. But God was faithful in the small things. And God took those small things and he did great things. And that's where we're trying to encourage you, right? There's an unwritten story that God has for you in the work that you do. Stick with it. All right? And so the story behind PhoneLive.io is we were starting a company called Smart Talk. And the purpose of Smart Talk was to take the church telephone and re-engineering it to be a ministry tool, not just a phone hanging on the wall. And in developing Smart Talk, um, my son got about 18 different technologies patented and had a list about 100 features that he wanted to put into this phone. And one of the features he wanted to put into the phone was the concept of live audio streaming. So somebody could call on the telephone and listen to your service live. And we told him, nah, don't know, that's a cool thing, but yeah, it's not a big thing. You should put it on the bottom of the list. So my son's from Illinois, and he was visiting my home in Minnesota when the pandemic started. So he stays up one night to 2 o'clock in the morning and writes the first version of PhoneLive.io. Goes to before he goes to bed, he mentions it to one person in a private message on Facebook. Wakes up at 8 a.m. with 4 churches asking if they could sign up. Now there's no website, all right, and these 4 churches he never heard of before. This one friend posted it in a post on Facebook, and it took off, became viral. Within a few months, we had hundreds of churches using the system and didn't even have a website yet. And what Phone Live IO does, it takes the RTMP signal from your video stream. It becomes a destination just like Facebook, YouTube, your website, whatever your destinations you use. And when it receives the video signal, it strips off the audio and connects it to a toll-free number that's assigned to your church. So people can call in and they can hear the message. And then it has a subscription system. So you can put in phone numbers, and when your video goes live, it calls those people and they pick up the phone and they're in church. There's no menu, there's no access code, there's no muting, and there's no training, right? And because it's automated through RTMP, there's no staff. There's nobody that needs to monitor it. You just do your regular video streaming and hit that go live button. From that, over 1,200 churches have used the system. And we see about an average of 20,000 people every Sunday that are in a disadvantaged situation that use Phone Live to connect to their live church service. The system is tons of features, and the main churches, the bigger customers that use it, actually see a 15% growth year over year in the use of it in their specialty ministries. And you might say, well, who are these disadvantaged people that they can't watch the video? Well, shut-ins who don't have the internet, or shut-ins who are challenged in using the internet, people with dementia, the blind, inner city poor who can't afford decent broadband, rural people who can't get a consistent broadband signal, people traveling. Because we are a phone signal, we don't buffer. Our audio is live on the phone. People out camping, people out exercising, people at work uh, use it because the quality of the transmission is consistent and it doesn't buffer, and it's not a video that would interfere or distract them. And so um, it's used throughout North America and Canada. It's an American system, and all of that came about because of faithfulness in the small things and God's promise that He would finish the work. And it was not by our might, not by our power, because we're nobody special. There's all kind of miraculous doors that opened. For instance, Phone Live going viral. It had to be the right time, right moment, right people that would comment on it and stuff. God lined all that up. And so don't be discouraged. Now, discouragement's a funny thing. It comes to you from a couple of different ways. Uh, one way discouragement might come to you is some people might feel um, unwanted, unappreciated. Okay, but you know what you're doing. You know why you're doing it. Okay, discouragement may come about because you expected more participation, more results from your work. Right? You don't see the 5 people that are watching it, or the one person that's watching it, and that's discouraging to you. That one person is the person who's going to make a world of difference. Right? You're hoping that there be 500 or 1,000 people watching your video. Um, your discouragement may become in your limitations of cash flow and equipment. Equipment that's broken, that needs to be babysitted, um, that requires more work than it should. Is another way discouragement can come. Another way discouragement can come is people either trying to shut you down or to take over your ministry. It's really hard. Um, when somebody thinks they can do a better job than you, and sometimes it's appropriate to step away. But that's okay. I've had to do that 2 or 3 times at the Bible college. It came around where people showed up that were smarter than me, knew better than me, take over a project. And I promise you, it happened 5 or 6 times. I would get the phone call always at 10 o'clock at night. I don't know why at 10 o'clock. And the college president would say, "Can you come in tomorrow and clean up this mess this person made and get this back on track?" um, Not because I was smarter than the other person. Um, it was more an ego thing. It was their ego that they were um, after. They weren't focused on the ministry. And but I took the humble road, and God honored me through that. So that can also be a discouragement. Others succeeding and you're not succeeding can be a discouragement. Um, God puts us where we're at on purpose, and it's the best place for you to be. Um, if you're a finger in the body of Christ, be the best finger. You would never work as a nose. So um, really grab a hold of that. You are the best place you can be, and the mighty God who created the universe put you there and has a plan for you there, and He's going to use you there. So yeah, just want to be an encouragement today. We've got about a half hour left, and I really want to feed uh, you and your needs and such. And so, in the before I do that, let me share just a few other things. So I'm thinking of it. I just want to share with you this. You can visit our website at phonelive.io, and we do have a course called How Thriving Churches Connect, Care, and Change Lives with phonelive.io. This course is loaded. Um, and what happened is when we created phonelive.io, we created it for shut ins and we created it for rural people. God took it, and churches are using it for inner city poverty, for people with dementia, for the blind, for parolees that are not allowed on the internet, for people traveling, people camping, people exercising or working. The applications, it's even being used for translation. People replace their translation equipment with PhoneLive.io. Now, it's a translation equipment. PhoneLive.io does not do translation, but instead of having equipment, maintaining it, and replacing broken units and stuff like that, they do translation over the phone. So people in person and people online can get the translation. So it has a bigger reach. But all that came by uh, God blessing churches and churches. We never wrote any code for all those other features. Um, but you can learn all about that at phonelive.io. When you get there, there's a pop-up box where you can sign up for the course. It's a 1 hour course, 5 lessons, and it's packed. That's why it takes an hour. There's so many use cases and how people are using it and growing ministries and such, and it's all there in the course for you. So from that, we'll go over to chat here, and Ty and Michael and Technology Babble, is that it? Oh, that's the host. Okay. So Ty and Michael, thanks for joining from Salem, North Carolina, and from Brown Deer, Wisconsin. I'm in Minnesota. My wife is from Wisconsin, so I'm not sure where Brown Deer's from. But they're in the chat. Feel free to ask a question, and I'll answer your questions. So I've done church IT, ministry IT since 1982. 40, what's it put me at? 43 years. And so I've seen a lot come and go. Uh, it's really funny. In the early days, what you could do with a computer, right? It was very limited, limited memory, limited hard drive. You didn't have the internet. And we did some pretty powerful stuff. What's funny is you see these young kids with the latest and greatest of technology today, and they're not even touching the tip. I was in a fundraiser, it was an auction situation, and the young people were using Excel spreadsheet to track all the bids. And then after the auction, you'd go up and they would total up your amount of your bids, and you'd pay off your bids. And so I went up to to pay my bill on my bids, and they were going through the Excel spreadsheet and writing down one number at a time, and then with a calculator totaling up the amount of money I owed them. And I'm like, you know, spreadsheets can add, don't you? And they're like, no. And I showed them how to sort and highlight and get the total instantly. The kid went ballistic. But here he was, a senior in college, and didn't even know that a spreadsheet could add. And we used to use spreadsheets for adding back in the 80s. Um, so it's really kind of a funny thing to see. Of course, when I started in the 80s, media was a total separate industry from computers. You know, I remember the first time seeing a photograph on a computer, and some of the early days of publishing on the computer. I actually worked with Windows, I believe it was 2.0, and what was that publishing company? Oh, I can't think of the name of it back in the day. And we used to, oh, those fonts, they were dotted, you know. The resolution wasn't the highest. Um, but we were pretty impressed with the publishing. And then, of course, the videos started, and Adobe, live streaming, and this whole new concept of social media. Wow, a lot of things have happened over the years. All right, so there's a delay between broadcasting and you're receiving it, so I'm just waiting to see if any questions do come up on the chat. See if there's anything else I can encourage you with. So I told you that I helped the Elmo district with their first accounting computer, working off of their campground. Last year, 2 years ago actually, I think it was, the Elmo district has invited my son, and he now takes care of their technology and has built a whole event management, camp management system for the Elmo district. So walking in the shoes of his dad, that was really cool to see. And I wish, man, that this was like a Zoom session where we have more of you guys share your testimonies on what God's doing with the technology that you're using. And again, thank you to AJ for inviting us here to the E-Missionary Conference. I've known him for a couple of years. He's been a blessing to our company, and love his spirit of ministry. And talk about encouragement, man. That guy's been through a lot and keeps the chin up, and understands the ministries. Um, not a amusement park or a fun ride, or it's a lot of work. Even though your specialist working with technology, you do have to work with people, and you have to keep that Christian attitude. Uh, just a little quick thing on the side. Um, Everybody's gonna get offended, and everybody's gonna need to forgive somebody at some time. And one of the questions about forgiveness that we ask is, how do we know we've forgiven somebody? Okay. And my take is it's the fruit of the spirits. So if you go down the list of the fruit of the spirits, do you love that person? Do you have joy when you're in their presence? Do you have peace? Are you patient with that person? Have you showed that person kindness? Have you blessed that person with goodness? Have you been faithful to that person and not stabbed them in the back? Have you shown gentleness to that person? And do you have self control around that person? And so that's your checklist to check how much you have forgiven them. And that's my sermon for today. So we'll pass around the offering plate here in a minute for an offering. All right. Looks like there's no questions. I pray and hope that we have been a blessing to you. Before we end the session here, and I know it's a little early, um, but we want to make sure that you do visit the survey site for this session, and give us feedback on that survey. For myself, what can I do to do better? Did I go too fast? I am a fast talker. Um, Also, anything I can improve on? Any suggestions you have for AJ for the conference? And again, we appreciate AJ. We appreciate his home church hosting the conference, and we're praying for AJ, the burdens that they're carrying this week. Um, God give them peace and help his family, strengthen them. So thank you for joining me in the session today, and may the Lord bless you and bless the work that you do. Hopefully, someday we can meet and you can share the stories of what God's done with the work that you've done. Talk to you later. Thanks.